I'm second guessing how I've said it in the past, but I really don't remember.
The great thing is nobody will know better. Hey everybody, it's Pastor Los, eager to join you for another Gospel Unplugged this week with my colleague,
Pastor Cieslik.
And we are going to be talking about a story in John that takes twists and turns and kind of goes in some unanticipated directions.
It's a long one.
It is a long story. In fact, the next set of weeks, we are going to be covering some long stories because John tells long stories. And to make it something that we can read on a Sunday at Mount Olivet, we actually have been slimming them down. And so this is selected verses from John 4. If you would like to read the chapter in its entirety, you can click the link in the email with the Gospel Unplugged video, and you will find it there. And even after the slimming it down, it is still a fairly long story. And I'll just, like, full confession, Pastor Cieslik and I have been working on this for a little while. He took the first cut at it, and it was shorter.
Much.
And I couldn't bear to leave some of it out. So
this is good stuff.
It is now longer again. So with all of that as background, let's read from chapter 4. St. John writes, "Then Jesus came into a Samaritan city called Sychar, and Jacob's well was there. Jesus, tired out by his journey, was sitting by the well. It was about noon. A Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, 'Give me a drink.' The Samaritan woman said to him, 'How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria?' Jews do not share things in common with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have no bucket, and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us the well, and with his sons and his flocks drank from it?" Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. The water that I will give them will become in them a spring of water gushing up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water." Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband and come back." The woman answered him, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You are right in saying I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband." The woman said to him, "Sir, I see you are a prophet. And I know that Messiah is coming, and when he comes, he will proclaim all things to us." Jesus said to her, "I am he, the one who is speaking to you." Then the woman left her water jar and went back to the city. She said to the people, "Come and see a man who told me everything I have ever done. He cannot be the Messiah, can he?" They left the city and were on their way to him, and many Samaritans from that city believed in him, because of the woman's testimony. Here endeth the long reading.
It's shorter.
Shorter, but probably like half.
Half, at least.
Yeah, but still. Okay. John hints at this, but maybe to remember, Samaritans and Jews are sort of like distant cousins or cousins that have not gotten along for a very, very long time, but they do share this common ancestor of Jacob. And so that is part of what's going on here. They're at a place in Samaria, which is northern Israel, and the woman's surprised because a male Jewish teacher would generally have absolutely nothing to do with a Samaritan woman. So with that little bit of background, curious what grabbed your attention, what got you thinking?
Well, I think that's helpful. There's all kinds of ways in which this is a story about some boundary transgression. Jesus is now outside of his home base. There's something about his ministry expanding here to a group of people that would be unlikely candidates. it's, a lot of people will wonder about why she's at the well at noon. It's the hottest part of the day. Is she trying to hide? Blah, blah, blah. Like, maybe that's interesting. But it is an interesting contrast between her story and Nicodemus's story from the previous chapter, where Nicodemus comes at night, kind of hiding. Full sun, full noon sun is as bright as it gets. So you get the sense that you have the Jewish teacher, insider, coming at night, outsider, woman in the middle of the day, the brightest light. And I think that's just kind of a fun contrast. She gives powerful testimony about who Jesus is, but is uncertain in her testimony. But that doesn't preclude it from being effective, which I think is kind of cool. I don't always know what to make of the 5 husbands deal either. People are quick to assume
the worst
about her.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty easy to just acknowledge that life has been hard for her, and to be a woman who has had no stability, no predictability, no consistent care in her life, and now is greeted by somebody who looks at her differently is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think some of the things you mentioned have led to, in my humble opinion, this passage being misread for decades, if not centuries. So yes, she must be a woman of ill repute. She's coming at noon when nobody gets water so that she doesn't see anyone. And we read this as sort of a accusatory story instead of a tragic story, as tragedy. And recognizing in the ancient world, women didn't have remotely the agency that we're ascribing to this woman, that she went from husband to husband, but rather was either discarded or husbands died and then entered into another marriage for support. And so the 5 husbands is I don't think nowhere in this passage is the word sin mentioned or offer forgiveness. This is a tragedy. And I think you're right on the money. John is so aware of symbolism, and so night isn't simply darkness; it is unbelief or anxiety or suspicion. And that's when Nicodemus, this male Jewish teacher of the law, insider, as you named, comes, and this woman is encountered with Jesus in noon, again, as you said, sun and faithfulness, essentially, for John. And the remarkable, I think, is with whatever question she has, however she felt caught up short by him, how much he knows about her, she is not positive but wonders. I love that it's a question. This couldn't be Messiah, could it? Maybe. And
I mean, I think it's one of the things that I'm not 100% positive about, but I'm pretty sure that the Greek construct there is expecting a negative response. I
did not know that.
It's the meti or something that I can't remember because I was terrible at Greek. But it is some construct in the Greek that her question
is the word may comes before the verb.
Yeah, is it expecting a negative response?
Yeah.
And yet she is still moved enough to share this with people.
Yeah.
Even though she's like, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Or it can't possibly be. And yet there is something powerful enough in her story and her testimony that prompts people to go.
Yeah.
Like if we keep reading, you see this whole town is transformed by this woman's testimony in some pretty amazing ways. And I love that because she doesn't have it all figured out and yet still is curious enough, open enough. And I think that's another element of the story that is so cool is you see this movement of her. And I think you see this in all of the favorable characters in John's gospel where they start at some sort of distance or there's some sort of crisis as you talked about not too long ago in one of your sermons, but that there's a crisis of belief, and the people who are held up as faithful people start to move closer and closer to Jesus. Like it's, who are you, random Jewish guy at the well? Oh, you must be a prophet. This can't be the Messiah, can he? And it's this journey of, a little skepticism, but also a measure of openness to be proven right. And I find that to be helpful for people of faith to know you don't have to have it all buttoned up. And yet you can still invite people, point people, come and see this man who's told me everything about myself.
Yeah, our theme for Lent, which is just around the corner, Encountering Jesus, arises from, I think, the way John is telling these stories, character after character after character, who offer us different possibilities for what happens when we hear the word in our lives or encounter Jesus in the story. And I find that really encouraging, that Nicodemus is not sure and is kind of afraid and doesn't know what to make of Jesus. He'll reappear. This woman is caught up short and really wondering, has her doubts, but ventures them out loud. And God does something with that. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be certain. You don't have to have no questions or doubts. Like this gathering that we have on Sundays is for everyone else. All the people who do have questions and doubts and wonder and are not sure, but are intrigued enough, care enough to keep showing up. Yeah. In light of all that, we often close this with a question or two for you all to think about on your way to Sunday. So curious if you could venture.
I think one of the things that the story lends me to wonder about is like how are you maybe emboldened to tell people about your own encounter with Jesus, knowing that like this woman, you don't have to have it figured all out. Like, is there some profound grace in not having to have it all sorted, but you can just say, here's what I've experienced. Come see for yourself. Like, is that life-giving, freeing, helpful for us who are often really nervous to tell folks about why we go to church or why your faith matters or why you believe in God.
I think similarly, some of the freedom that we talked about finding in the story is to give voice to our very real questions. For years when I taught at Luther Seminary and I'd be at congregations to do a adult ed or presentation, we'd always have a Q&A. But then on the way out, it would be the second round of Q&A. And I usually would hear the questions then that people weren't ready to venture in the class.
Yeah.
Because they felt like they should know already or you shouldn't ask this question.
Yeah.
And so one thing I would invite you is to think about one of your deep or hard questions. What would you ask if you felt comfortable asking, knowing that the story invites us to be honest about what's good and what's hard, what we feel confident of and what we're not sure of. So what is one of your hard, deep questions that you would love to ask?
And be sure and ask Pastor Los at a church.
I was going to say God, but I'll do my bestest. All right. Thank you for the conversation. Thanks for being a part of it, and we'll see you in church.